our religious leader of the day.
Okay.
TB Joshua.
Oh my days. Prophet TB Joshua. The documentary paints a picture of a man who's been idolized by millions, but behind the facade of holiness lies a darker truth.
Yeah.
It's just another example of Western media trying to tarnish the reputation of a black man doing great for the church.
No. It's not every day that.
Hello, globies. Welcome to the World Health Investigation Podcast. My name is Jocelyn.
I'm Edna. We are young global health professionals and your hosts for the World Health Investigation Podcast.
Also known as the WHI. We will be discussing all things global health, unpacking the most controversial health and social issues,
as well as promoting new wave global health development and equity.
So, Adina, tell me, what's the tea in global health today?
Of course, globies, we've got some global health news for you all. Tell us, Jocelyn, what's going on? What's been going on?
Let me start. This gripping news is from the United Kingdom. Scientists there have started gearing up for a potential new pandemic they're calling Disease X.
Not the most imaginative name, but
right?
Yeah, so I hear this initiative taking place at the high security Portion Down Laboratory Complex in Wiltshire. Over 200 scientists are on the case, y'all. It's serious.
This is serious. They're not messing around, globies. They've drawn up a list of animal viruses that could potentially jump to humans and wreak havoc worldwide.
Absolutely. So the team, they're kind of like a pandemic prevention dream team, guys, okay? This is the best you can get. They're even expanding their focus beyond COVID-19 to monitor other high-risk pathogens like bird flu and hantavirus.
We are ready. And get this, Edna, they're already making strides with the world's first vaccine against Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever.
Okay.
And this disease spreads by ticks, so it's no joke, with a fatality rate of 30%.
That's some very positive news. And again, they're not waiting around for a pandemic to hit. They're preparing for it on head.
And with climate change and population shifts increasing risks of future pandemic, we are aware that it is crucial that we are proactive when it comes to measures that we put in place.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. We're living in a world where I feel like it's very easy for viruses to jump from animals to humans. It's like easier than ever before.
Yeah, so globies, let's give a round of applause to these scientists for their dedication and hard work in keeping us safe from the next potential pandemic. We've therefore learned from COVID, right?
We're keeping an eye on it. So we're gonna keep our fingers crossed and, hoping any time for new vaccines.
Yeah, you got it, girl. Until next time, stay safe and stay curious.
Right. Now, on to the juiciest parts of the episode. Today, we're diving into a topic that's been making waves: the impact of religious leaders on health. But it isn't just any story. It's a tale of intrigue, controversy, power dynamics at play in our world.
We are delving into the recent documentary by the BBC News, which shed light on the life and legacy of so-called prophet TB Joshua.
So-called. Well, one may ask, why are we even talking about religious leaders in the first place? This is World Health Investigation.
Now, according to a study published in the Journal of Religion and Health, approximately 71% of individuals surveyed reported that their religious leaders influence their health behaviors such as diet, exercise, and seeking medical care. So this highlights the significant role that religious leaders play in shaping the health practices and overall well-being of their followers.
That's higher than I was expecting, to be honest. So, our religious leader of the day,
okay,
TB Joshua.
Oh my days. Prophet TB Joshua. Let's start with the man himself.
Yeah.
He's been a tower figure in the world of religion for over 3 decades.
3 whole decades.
Amassing a devoted following that spans continents.
All over the world.
But as the documentary reveals, there's more to the story than meets the eye.
A lot more, guys. So, according to this documentary, TB Joshua has been accused of perpetrating abuse and torture within his his church, the Synagogue Church of All Nations, SCOAN. And there have been many shocking revelations. And it just shows, especially for religious leaders who are beacons of morality.
Allegedly, of course. The documentary paints a picture of a man who's been idolized by millions, but behind the facade of holiness lies a darker truth.
Yeah.
There are allegations of physical violence, manipulation, and even rape that are surfaced, casting a shadow over Joshua's legacy.
Yeah, it was very tragic. But how did TB Joshua amass such a devoted following in the first place? Well, it seems from the documentary that his charisma and supposed miraculous powers played a significant role.
I agree. I think it highlights how his church became a magnet for those seeking healing and spiritual guidance, and his supposed ability to perform miracles drew in crowds from far and wide, with many willing to go to great lengths for a chance to experience its divine touch.
Yeah, I think it's just a testament to the power of belief and the allure of the miraculous. But as the documentary reveals, not all is as it seems.
Yeah, that's not the overall picture. So please tell us your thoughts, Globies. What do you think of the documentary? Starting off with you, Edna. What were your thoughts of this film documentary?
Yes, I really enjoyed watching the documentary. I thought it was very shocking, very jarring. Obviously, I didn't go to the types of church that TB Joshua preached at, but he was there on our TVs, and the perception I had was, okay, it's just some good preacher, shares the good words. But with this documentary, it was very jarring to see some of the despicable things he actually was up to. I was very jarred.
So which scene stuck with you the most?
I would have to say it was definitely the scene where where some people are starting to try and speak up and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so he goes to that weird mountain where he has pictures of people everywhere.
Yeah.
And then it just didn't seem like he was doing anything godly.
Yeah.
So that scene, I think, shocked me the most.
I think it makes me think of the way people perceive religious leaders. They have so much influence. People were traveling from the United States, from the United Kingdom, from all around the world, and this is for this man, and he had ulterior motives, allegedly. I agree. I feel like that scene stuck with me the most as well. That scene of him going onto the mountains and him slapping the ushers and the scene about I think what I found particularly interesting was when people were allegedly saying that they got cured from HIV/AIDS. That makes me think about public health interventions and how much influence a leader such as TB Joshua would have on healthcare. That's my personal interest there.
No, I actually agree, because that's what it also made me start to think about, and to think about why do people seek out these religious leaders, and why do they think they're the ones that can cure them and all of these things. And TB Joshua, he's not the first kind of prophet or religious leader to make such promises towards people. I just feel as if with his case, it was just this, the idea he had in the public eye versus the reality of who he is.
It's just another example of Western media trying to tarnish the reputation of a black man doing great for the church.
No. It's not every day that. I think, yes, there are situations in the world where that is the case. You feel like Western media very much is out to attack someone. But that's not the case here. In fact, I think TB Joshua relied so much heavily on the influence, or rather the idea of having people from the US, UK be in his church and be the ones to be recording videos and doing all kinds of outreach. He sort of relied on that to make sure that his image was good. So I feel like, if anything, the reverse was needed in this case of like, he needed to be exposed.
Yeah.
Whether, no matter the color of his skin, if anyone is doing anything like this, they need to be exposed.
Yeah, but when some say that, in the US, there are also false prophets or whatnot. So why are they not being exposed? Why is it the Nigerian prophet that is being exposed?
It's not just TB Joshua, though.
And why now? Is what they're saying.
I mean, okay, there's many reasons. First of all, to that question of why he's the only one being exposed, he's not the only one.
Yeah.
Because recently, even TB Jakes, he's also black, okay, fine, but he's in the US.
Yeah.
And he has also, has had many allegations come out, especially more surrounding about some of the potential sexual harassment or just some of his sexual relations that he had with people in his congregation. So I feel like, with these prophets and the false prophets, there's levels to this game. There is just, I'm here preaching the word of the Lord, but behind closed doors, maybe I don't really follow it. Then there is, I'm here preaching the word of the Lord, but low-key running a cult.
A cult, yeah.
Low-key actually causing harm to people, depriving people of sleep, raping people. Apparently, almost every day he was at that church, different girls he was assaulting.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's why there's different levels here. False prophets, I feel like that's everyday news. People making promises that can get you into heaven, all of these things. But TB Joshua is a very specific case. But I don't know. What were your thoughts when it comes to that? Like, why are we only focusing on TB Joshua?
I think the impact that he has had on that church and anyone that is associated with that church is massive. And I think if the BBC, obviously I do have to look at it from like a critical lens and still take things with a grain of salt, but just knowing how much power political leaders have in Africa, in many African countries, there's a very high likelihood that it is true. Yeah. I think this guy had presidents, ministers endorsing him. He had people that were saying, no, TB Joshua has helped me with my spiritual health. He has helped me with ABCD. I had cancer. I had kidney disease. I had HIV. I had ABC and D, and he helped me. I was even gay, and he helped me. So these are strong statements. These are very strong, these are strong for trying to cure something that nobody actually knows the cure to. Like that's a big deal. And so now they're saying that, okay, they want to bring him down or whatnot. I'm like, I think my take on it is, if he's doing harm to the public, it's important that light is being shed on it, regardless. Whether it is true or it's not true, which I personally, I'd like to believe the victims, because it's very unlikely for someone to wake up one day and just say, yeah, I'm just going to talk about TB Joshua and just like ruin his reputation. Yeah,
and for it to be like 30 people.
Think about how much power he has. Yeah. Think about how much they've had to go through to expose him, considering how much power his church has. So it's not an easy thing to do. No. So I think either way, whether it's true or it's not true, let's forget that. As something has happened, people have come with allegations and they've come with their stories. We need to talk about it. It's time to talk about it. It's time to investigate deeper.
And then the second point you were making, what was the second point you were making? Why now? Yeah, I mean, obviously now he has passed away. He passed away a couple of years ago during COVID. Yeah, 2021. During the COVID years. I remember that. And even if you watch the documentary, you'll see that they mentioned that they started recording interviews with all the different victims and people that spoke up a week before he passed away. Yeah. So this was already in the works before, while he was still alive. Yeah. Obviously, they couldn't account for him passing away. Regardless, again, for me, it's like it's never too late to reveal the truth. It's never too late. There's no deadline for revealing the truth. At any point, whether it was now, in 10 years, in 20 years, the truth needs to come out.
Yeah, the truth needs to come out. And think about it, the church is not in the past. No, it's still ongoing. There still are many people that still believe and go to the synagogue, Church of All Nations. No comment. on that if you still go to that church. But I think for me personally, I just think if you're saying why now, do you know how hard it is for you to talk about a very personal issue, a very almost like stigmatized issue in an environment where everyone is likely not to believe you? I'm thinking about the victims. Like his daughter even went against him, you know, in the documentary. His daughter tried to speak up, but you saw what happened to her. She was completely isolated, beaten, brutalized, everything. Other people that tried to speak up were threatened. After his building collapsed, one of the buildings that he used to host visitors, the guests, it collapsed, and there were some parents and families of the deceased that tried to, you know, do something about it, and they also received threats allegedly. So you're asking why now? Think about all the potential roadblocks that could have come along the way of people that tried to report this matter.
Yeah. And I do think, especially because he was seen as like a religious and spiritual leader for so many people, and there's so many, like, how he was behind closed doors allegedly is almost so opposite to how he was publicly. It almost makes the barrier so much higher for anyone that wants to speak up, because it's gonna take a lot of convincing, and obviously you're coming for someone where the idea is like they have like high moral standards, they're like an upstanding person. So if you come with such an allegation, obviously people are now like, what's the evidence? There's no way, you've been sent by the devil. There's a demon in you. There's so many things like that they could just come at you with that. I think if I was in those victims' positions, it'd be very hard to speak up.
It'd be very hard to speak. And you just mentioned the demons. Can we talk about the demons?
We have to.
Can we just address? Obviously, I'm a Christian. Okay, let me just start by labeling that.
We're both Christians.
We're both Christians. Like I believe in God. However, can we talk about the misogyny within the church? Like, these are layered issues. The gender. Why is it that all the women had the spirit of harlot?
It was just the women. Anytime a woman came to that church and said, "Hello, man of God, I have this and this," he said, "No, that's not the problem.
You are suffering from prostitution.
It's prostitution. Your headache is because of prostitution." Jezebel, sit down.
The spirit of Delilah has entered you.
Yes, it's nothing else. You are promiscuous.
That's what had me so skeptical, because why is it that most of the women had like these sexual roles and the men were like the ushers, and the men were like meant to be like the protectors and the guiders, and they were the ones also like enabling the physical abuse in the church. So just think about the biases. There's so much bias, and it's, I think, to your point, it's something that's also very prevalent in the church in general. We can only speak for like the Christian church. I don't know about other religions. But there's just definitely this idea of like, even when the man like does something sexual, whether it's an assault or some kind of advance, even if it's consensual, it's still like, oh, but because you as the woman have tempted me. You have tempted me. You exposed your ankle. Like, what am I meant to do as a man? You've tempted me. So it's always laid down to the women. It's laid down to the women, and the way he would molest them and make them call him daddy. Now I know we have Christian brothers and sisters out there where, you know, this is your preferred thing. Even for God, you say, Baba God, Daddy. God, you know? Yeah. But to the prophet. Just a man. To the top. Alleged prophet. So-called prophet. So-called. And I see some of those victims have actually left the church as well. You know, like, yes, they should. Some are no longer Christian, which pains my heart as well, because you, in a place where you're supposed to experience unconditional love, you're meant to experience God's true love and that internal peace. Yeah. And you go in there. Imagine you leave, you pass your A-levels and you go into church only to be abused. And you're deprived of sleep. Yeah. It was horrible conditions. This is why, you know, it's one of those things where it's even beyond just scamming people for money or doing prosperity gospel or anything like that. It's actually evil. And I feel like
Yeah, church hurt is a real thing, and it's something that, people don't always like to talk about, especially with people who have left the church.
Yeah.
And the church, I don't know if they've been that great at actually being able to address church hurt.
Yeah.
And I feel like what's always important for me to remind people, especially, when they look at stories like this within Christianity, within the church, yes, we carry the title Christian or whatever religion you are, and you are expected to really hold yourself up to those high moral standards.
Yeah.
But people within the church are also just humans. Whether it's the Pope, it's a bishop, it's a prophet, whoever it is, they're just a human being at the end of the day, and we are flawed. We are flawed.
Yeah.
So the same flaws you see in people who are just regular, they don't call themselves religious or anything, you will see them as well in people who carry that title.
Yes.
They're just a mirror of what's going on in society.
Yes.
The bad you find in the normal society, you will also find it in the church.
Yes. And I mean, even biblically, it does say that prophets and religious leaders will be judged harshly. So you still need to, as a religious leader, you still need to remember that you have people under your care. Which leads me on to my next question. Now, do you think that religion is an opportunity or a threat to public health? Can religion be seen as an opportunity or more of a threat to public health?
That's a great question. That's a great question. I mean, obviously, we've told y'all we're Christians, so I'm biased. I would obviously say that it is an opportunity. At the same time, if we're trying to be balanced, I can see the many ways in which it has been harmful for progress in public health. Things like promising an HIV cure, telling people not to take their medications, telling people that doctors or the church or hospitals are evil. So I can see ways that it has been harmful, but I think that's just people misusing it. And I think I lean more on the side of, on the whole, it is more of an opportunity. Not even when we just come to physical health, but we hear about how meditation, mindfulness, prayer, it can be very helpful for mental health. So that's where I'm at. What do you think?
I also agree. I am biased as well. I would say I can see why in certain religions, and when it's almost used as a weapon, and when power is abused in any institution, it's a threat. I think any institution of power is a threat. Let's admit that.
Amen.
Yeah, any institution of power is a threat. I quote my dad. He said that to me one day, and I was like, but it's low-key true.
It's true.
The moment power is involved, there's potential for abuse.
Absolutely.
In there. However, like the great Malcolm X, with power comes great responsibility. So with the same power that you have, you can also use it to influence it for good. So I could see how public health can also be used. I can see how religion can also be used within healthcare as an opportunity to reach people that are religious, and to connect with them and to fully understand that whole concept of holistic care, and not just looking at healthcare from a one-dimensional lens, but understanding that there are different social determinants of health. There are different factors that influence somebody's health. So I think it can be an opportunity, it can be a threat. Again, now as health professionals, what can we do to essentially seize that opportunity to do good for the public?
I think sometimes it can be helpful for us to start with even exemplar. You mentioned Malcolm X. Together with the fight for civil rights in the US, Martin Luther King, who was a reverend, right? He was actually a reverend. And that was a huge part of his motivation to, seeking justice and doing what is right. A huge source of that was from his religious knowledge and all of that. In South Africa during the peak of the HIV pandemic, Bishop Desmond Tutu, he was a really key figure in making sure that people in South Africa got treatment, and he was very much involved in the advocacy and the fight, or rather the response of the HIV response in South Africa. So I think the two key things that I noted, at least from these two people, was that using your power and your responsibility and your influence, whether you are able to speak to politicians who have a lot of respect for your other, religious peers and whatnot.
Yes.
The church, people in the church, using that for good, using that to advocate for positive change.
Yes. And I mean, I do agree. I think that can be used to advocate for positive change. I know in not just Christianity, in Islam, in Judaism, in Hinduism, they do promote good health. Like, things like, abstinence from smoking or like alcohol or I don't know, just harmful substances in general usually are promoted in many religions.
Yeah.
And I think that can be seen in a positive way.
Yeah.
And I've also come across many religious leaders that do work across the world, that have ministries that are doing great things. Unfortunately, it's the bad stories that usually tend to blow up. And usually when it causes when harm is being caused, it's caused to the masses. Like we've seen in this case, it's many thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. And also to add on to that, I know in Cameroon, the vast majority, like there's a huge proportion of non-governmental organizations and charities that are faith-based.
Absolutely.
That are Christian, that are, centered around trying to, it could be cancer, it could be helping the bereaved, it could be helping the older generation, but it's usually it often in my country, I think it often stems from a religious motivation or something.
Yeah.
So I see the point in both sides, and I think it's important that we as healthcare professionals, we know how to use the opportunity, essentially, right? Like we need to use the opportunity to reach hard to reach populations.
Yeah, I feel like we need to do the work. We sometimes say these hard to reach populations, but I think it's just like it's hard for us. They are not the problem. Yeah. We are just the ones who have a hard time reaching them. So we need to be able to do that work to like really think from their perspective and to try see, like you're saying, this whole thing of seeing health in a more holistic point of view. I think that we could definitely leverage more of that, especially in global health, when you're designing your programs, your initiatives, keeping all of that in mind.
Okay, now let's play a little game.
Okay.
We're gonna have this like we had in previous weeks. When it comes to film reviews, documentaries, we talk about like what stood out to us throughout the film. So we have the health hazard award, right?
Yes.
This award usually goes to whichever character we thought caused the most harm for public health, for global health.
Enemy of progress.
Enemy of
public health progress.
Yes, essentially. The real demon.
Yeah.
But let's not demonize people. But you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Who would you say would have the health hazard award?
Yes. In this case, I choose TB Joshua's wife.
Okay.
Whoever is continuing with this church congregation, allegedly cult. Because to me, I don't understand how you can be aware of such despicable acts, harm and abuse, and still carry on. To me, I think that's a big health hazard. We need to be breaking chains. We're not continuing the legacies.
Yes.
So that she gets my award.
She gets your award.
Who gets your health hazard award?
My health hazard award is not even in the actual documentary. My health hazard award is coming from exterior.
Okay.
From an external point of view.
All right.
The other religious leaders that are continuing to endorse TB Joshua.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. And a very important one.
They are the real powerful ones. They're still alive. They're still endorsing it. They hold the power. And I'm going to say allegedly again, just so that you don't come from me, because we're just young girls.
Yeah, we're just girls.
Okay? We have the right to opinion, innit?
Yeah.
But I would say they still hold the power. A lot of people still listen to them. And it goes down to the power of religious leaders down again, right? And these ones that, a lot of them are still saying that, they're trying to take down a young man that built an empire and they just want to ruin his legacy. I think.
And so what?
That's personally, I think that's a health hazard. If I was to run a public health intervention tackling different religions as a public health threat, I would start off with the other alleged pastors, prophets that are trying to endorse TB Joshua still.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's a good shout. So our next category, should we do the drama doctor?
Yes.
Who do you think should get the drama doctor award? Who just had the most crazy storyline throughout the documentary?
The craziest storyline, aside from TB Joshua,
Yeah.
I would say the young people. I forgot her name, but you know that girl with the curly hair.
Yeah.
Left her A-levels and decided to come in, and just seeing her character development and how she was super, I would say, naive coming in, and a bit hopeful as well.
She was a baby.
She was very young, and I could see that she had that belief. She had that faith in her. And just seeing how throughout the documentary, progressively, she just seems more and more overwhelmed and drained when she's presenting or evangelizing or whatnot. I would say, she was probably the drama doctor.
Yeah, that's fair. Mine is just like a little bit on the lighter note. It's one of these guys. I forgot his name as well. But basically, he was hired by TB Joshua, and his role in the church was to be like almost like TB Joshua's butler. Like even if he needed to go to the bathroom, they needed to be there to pull down his pants. And I give this guy the award because I just feel like the way he talks is so dramatic. Like his descriptions of everything he will be doing, the way he was talking in the documentary, doing like all kinds of like sound effects.
Even when he was talking about the beatings, that was so dramatic.
That was really dramatic. So I give it to him because he was just very expressive in his description.
Yeah. Okay, the next one. Let's tackle. Let's say if there was a public health hero.
Yeah.
We all know who that is.
Yeah. Wait, what's yours?
It's okay. What's his daughter's name?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I would say she went through it, and well, apparently, I don't know. Some people are saying that it's not even his real daughter. Some people are saying it's his real daughter. Well, if that's his real daughter, well, sometimes it's your own. It'd be your own people. I think she tried to speak up. And that's what was needed in that time. I don't think anyone had the courage to speak up within the church, but she did, and she got her punishment for it, which was very sad. But I think she tried her best.
I absolutely agree. That's who I would give my award as well. Because you know, like you're saying, everyone else was scared, and she was, I think, probably one of the first to speak up against him or stand up against TB Joshua, like in front of others as well, and to point out and to call him out on what he was doing. And I mean, I do hope still that have this documentary coming out, hopefully, you know, it means she kind of achieved her mission, because now the truth is out there.
It's out,
So that's why I give my award as well.
Obviously this was very heavy for me to watch. The whole documentary was quite heavy. I would say now, how do we move on from here? Obviously, we watched it, and we don't just want people to watch it and just start criticizing and just start, you know, hating and just start, you know, spreading negativity. How do we in public health move on from this? What lessons can we take, and how do we bring it into positive light?
That's a good question, because with a situation like this, it's very hard to turn it into a positive. The positive things, I think, are that, you know, the truth has eventually come out. Even if TB Joshua has now passed away, the truth has now come out. People can now be more aware. They can actually maybe stay more woke to things like this. They can start to question. They can just start to think a little bit like, my prophet at my church is a little bit like this as well. Or like actually something similar to what some of these victims are talking about has happened to me as well. And hopefully that can now empower others to like speak about their stories as well, and to expose more of these things, because we cannot tackle a problem that we can't see.
Yes.
So first and foremost, we need people to like bring it all to the light.
Yes.
So I think that's where we go from here as one of the things. Yeah,
thank you for that, Edna. I agree. I think my first statement that I want to emphasize is that religious leaders are not God.
No.
Pastors are not God.
No.
Priests are not God.
Nope.
Imams, whoever it is that you look up to, they're not God.
They're not God.
I think it's good that people have spoken up. And I think it's an opportunity for us to really spread the message that it's important for people to have their own personal relationship with God or like their higher power, and similar to how in healthcare we preach health promotion, right? The way you take your own health into your hands, you should also take your own faith into your hands.
Amen.
Don't just listen to what's being told to you and you essentially get brainwashed and have a blind eye. Go, if you hear something, go and interpret it for yourself. Try to do your own research. Try to also look at it from different perspectives, even if whether you're faithful or not. I think it's important to have that own personal, take your own health into their hands, and similar to taking your own religion into your hands. I would say that's how we can bring this into positive light, and that's how we can essentially use it to spread a positive message.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to like add to that, in terms of like just borrowing sometimes how we approach health and just science in general, it's about asking questions. It's about staying curious. It's about questioning things like, this thing that we said is true. Is it really true? Maybe we need to revisit it.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes in faith, whether it's Christianity or other religions, that can be seen as a bad thing.
A bad thing.
Asking questions and questioning things can be seen as a bad thing.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think if you're having doubts, if you're having questions, ask them. Go do your research. Go speak to others. Go speak to someone you think has, really good religious wisdom. Because again, that's the way we can move forward.
And if anything, that's what makes your faith stronger.
Yeah.
Because imagine if you believe in something and you're not fully sure about it, then you're just doing it out of because you think it's tradition or it's just a practice. Whereas if you ask the questions, and eventually if your questions get answered, then what you believe, you definitely have that faith to say, okay, I know what I'm saying. I have personally experienced it through faith.
Yeah.
I
have that conviction.
I have that conviction. That's why personally I ask questions, and I'm like, so when I ask questions and I get my answers, I'm like, okay, I know why I believe in what I believe, and I'm not just being brainwashed. Essentially,
absolutely. Yeah.
So on that note, thank you very much for listening. It's been a wonderful topic, I would say.
Yeah.
Comment below, let us know your thoughts. What did you think of the documentary? If you haven't watched it yet, go and watch it. What do you think is the impact of religious leaders on health, on healthcare, in politics, in global health, in global politics, in fact, in every possible industry in
the world.
What is the impact of religious leaders? Let us know what you think, and come back next week because we have even more to unpack.
Yes, we just touched the surface. We're gonna go even deeper. So yeah, stay tuned in. As always, follow us on our socials. On Instagram, we're at WHI_podcast. On Twitter as well, at WHI_podcast. You can look us up on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, World Health Investigation Podcast. Follow us, subscribe, stay tuned.
Stay tuned, stay woke, stay aware.
And keep asking questions.
Keep asking questions.
Okay.
Thank you and have a wonderful rest of the week.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.